Welcome to Beach Nerds. Marcus May, Chris Powell, and Lee Bell. What's up, boys?
What's
Great,
happening?
Marcus.
Cheers, by the way.
Cheers.
Well, how's the week been going? We're 2 days in, so I would hope it's not been too bad of a week so far.
No, it's been good, man. It's been good. So,
Yeah, man. Yeah, spring's coming. You know, I'm moving my fat ass around.
we're going to anniversary weekend this weekend, so maybe maybe there'll be some good things from that for sure.
I like it. I'll tell you this much. To Lee's point, this weather, there's an actual name for this. There's a disorder of people who do not like winter.
Seasonal affective disorder.
Yeah.
Seasonal affective disorder. Sad. It's sad. Correct. It's true. I mean, I really embody this, and I'm not a big one for disorders and trying to use excuses for how I feel or how it affects my life. But I'm not gonna lie, the weather and the seasons truly affect me, and I go from someone who is kind of borderline a little depressed in the winter. Just to be honest.
Absolutely. We've talked about that before. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm kind of borderline depressed. And then this weather rolls around and I'm like, let's go. Let's get on the golf cart. Let's go to the grocery store in the golf cart. Let's go to the beach. Let's like do all the things. And so it's been really exciting for me because we've actually been out. We've gone to the beach. We've taken, Marshall he loves the beach. We've taken him to the beach. We've gone the last few times to the grocery store in the golf cart. I can't get enough of it. So I'm loving it, man.
Great, man. I'm affected by being married with children. So I go to Vegas. I'm like, yay!
As far as the weather goes, I am completely full of shit because when it's winter, I want it to be summer. And when it's summer, I bitch about it and I want it to be winter. So it's like, I don't, except for I will say this, dude, when it's dark at 5:15, I have to stop myself from,
well, that's brutal. That's brutal. I mean, it's tough to be dark at 5 o'clock. I mean, I hate it. I cannot. Right. And what sucks about where we live is we're right on the tail end of the central time zone. So like, you go to the front end of the central time zone somewhere on the like west side of Texas, and you still, no matter if it's daylight savings time or not, you still got another hour or two. Or you go to Georgia for the Eastern time, and you still have another extra hour or two of sunlight. So,
right.
But I'll tell you this much.
Disagree more, man. I love cold. I love dark. I'm fat. I look great in jackets.
I used to tell my wife, I'll be like, now look, you're going to see a whole lot of girls looking at me in the wintertime. It's like, oh, there's big warm daddy. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's true. I mean, back in the day, wintertime, it was on, baby. It was on.
Man, nobody likes a skinny dude in October.
Oh, cold ass wet feet.
All right, but in all honesty, you gotta hate one more than the other. So, cold or winter, what do you really hate?
I guess wintertime. I mean, obviously.
I hate that balls sweating July weather.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't stand it when it's just like you're walking outside and it like feels like you're walking into an armpit. I can't.
You got to drop cornstarch in your underwear every time you walk out.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll take like dry ass Utah, Montana cold any day over that.
I agree. That dry cold is a lot more bearable. Even this 30 degree.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I think they call that heat swamp ass. Is what you get. Is that what it is? Swamp ass.
Yeah.
You definitely get swamp ass down here. Yeah, no shit about it.
And I'm putting a tampon in your ass crack. That's cool.
There you go.
Oh man, I love it. All right, so let's talk about some things. So I'm gonna hand this over to Lee, but we're gonna talk a little bit about what's been going on around the Alabama IVF ruling.
Oh,
I know this is a big one, and it's created a lot of fallout in a lot of ways. So, Lee, let's hear about it.
Man, this one's bending me over. It's really bending me over. Okay, so there's a Alabama Supreme Court case, right? And it started because there was this in vitro fertilization clinic, right? And apparently, a patient was able to wander the clinic, and they got into a secured area, right? And they were able to access frozen embryos. Okay, so they picked up the like nitroglycerin frozen embryos, and it burned their hand, and they fell to the ground and busted. Right. So the people ended up suing the IVF clinic for the destruction of their embryos, right? But they sued under this circa 1800s law about harming a child, right?
That is.
So the Alabama Supreme Court just made a ruling in favor of the plaintiffs, saying that a human embryo is a child, right? And like lot of super novel legal issues here. So Alabama had a so Alabama had this law on the books already that said it's super protection of life stuff. So in a lot of ways, I think the Supreme Court's hands were tied. But as an unintended consequence of this ruling, now every IVF clinic in the state is saying that they can't operate, right? Because if every single embryo is recognized legally as a child, then they're going to be.
Essentially, this all happened because of right to life, and the laws are written around anti-abortion practices. But in the crosshairs, we have this, which is most cases people trying to have kids. Like they're actually going to these clinics because they're having trouble having kids. They may have to have, fertilization. They may have to have them frozen for whatever reason. But their intention with the embryos is to actually have kids at some point in some way. But because of the anti-abortion laws that have been created, it has now literally made it where if you destroyed an embryo by accident,
or even on purpose.
Okay. Well, all right. So if you're someone going through destroying embryos on purpose, I think there probably should be some sort of action happen to you.
Oh no, it's actually it's normal in the course of IVF treatments.
That it happened just
because or there's embryos that they determine that aren't going to be viable. Right. So
even in the situations where they're saying, okay, we collected 10 eggs, we know 5 of these are essentially not going to ever produce an actual baby.
Right. Those
you can't even destroy those 5 or let anything happen to those because they're now protected under this law.
Right. So all of the IVF clinics in Alabama are shutting down right now.
And that's a shame because I literally have friends.
Oh yeah, me too.
Who have had major issues becoming pregnant, have had to use these clinics, and have successfully become pregnant. And they only use these clinics for one thing, and that was to have a child. It was for no, ill purposes whatsoever. I mean, it was for them to try to have a child because they were having trouble having children. So, if you're making it such a crazy restrictive way to do business where all the clinics are moving out. I mean, this is what this whole article is about, is like, how much does it cost to store them? How can you move them? Is anyone able to even move them now? Like, are people quitting that? And apparently people is saying that literally people are stopping transporting these because of this law.
This is the problem with almost every single thing in this godforsaken world. Okay,
government.
This is a scientific process that we have learned throughout the years to bring children to people. So it goes away from the naturalist, the beauty of what this happens, and everybody needs to understand this is a scientific situation. And if some dumbass sneaks in there and cracks open some embryos, there needs to be a criminal issue. If there's 5 of them that don't work scientifically,
correct,
they need to be disposed of in a decent manner.
Correct.
And everybody move the fuck on.
Yeah, correct. Like let me give you a couple of my viewpoints, right?
Yeah.
First of all, one of my overarching viewpoints is that science and religion don't mix.
Right. Never.
Science came far after religion, right? And you can't reconcile those two things.
That's right.
So, like, these museums where people ride dinosaurs, like the Flintstones, that's crazy to me. Your religious beliefs are what they are, but they can't really reconcile with science, right? Because, like, the birth of science with Galileo, and that happened, 1,000 years after religion came about. Right? Let me read you a quote from this Supreme Court ruling. And I want to hear you guys' reaction to it. So, we believe that each human being from the moment of conception is made in the image of God, created by him to reflect his likeness. Right? This is from the Alabama Supreme Court's ruling. And what I want to know from you guys is, like, take out God and replace it with Allah. Do you have a problem with that?
Well, for me, yeah. I mean, I'll just be flat out honest. Like, the way I look at this, and this is just and this is where you'll see more of my centered type of belief, is if you're as a Supreme Court, their one duty is to make a final judgment on the interpretation of the law. So whatever the legislators created, it is their job to say, you are within that law or you're without that law, like within or without. You can do that without bringing unnecessary backlash behind that. And the thing is, if this was a law on the books for many, many years, their hands could theoretically be tied. But when you start,
law on the books was from the 1870s.
Correct. But then interpret it that way. Like, because that's the only job you have. You're right. I mean, if the law's on the books, as a Supreme Court, you have nothing other than to actually interpret that law and say, yep.
Well, that's right. That's right. Now, let me throw a spanner. Hit that quote for me one more time.
From the actual decision, we believe that each human being from the moment of conception is made in the image of God, created by him to reflect his likeness.
Now, when you produce a child scientifically, God elements, is the God element in there? When you do IVF,
if you were to ask, say, let's say Tommy Tuberville, our senator, right? You were to,
I like him as a coach. Be careful.
They did ask him about it. It was like super embarrassing. But as Tommy Tuberville, what are undifferentiated cells? Do you think he could tell you what those are?
No.
That's what happens with a bunch of idiots. I like the football coach.
Well, guess who next is on the docket? Saban, by the way. They're about to push him really hard on the Democratic side to run. So Now we might be looking at
the
two
whole thing
football
about
coaches running against each other for Senate. But anyway, beside the point, just making a
the whole thing. I'm 100%. The law is the law. I'm proud to say I'm a Christian man.
My view,
when scientific stuff comes into play, there's a whole lot of things that you could actually have a conversation about when they say that a child is of God.
Yeah, they
could.
This is the law on the books.
Yeah,
right.
That's right.
Our hands are tied. The legislature has to make new laws.
Yeah.
Would have gotten away with that, but no, they went the God route.
Well, and same from a Christian as well. Like I do believe that everyone's created in His image, but as the ruling goes, back to what we're trying to say, this should have been pointed strictly as this is the law and this is why we're doing this, because now they're making this a even more honestly vulnerable situation because they did that. They injected religion into a ruling which theoretically is supposed to be separated, right? So it's crossing some lines from from a freedom perspective and our constitution of how we're supposed to operate as a country. Everyone's entitled to their beliefs, but the rulings are supposed to be strictly objective based off the laws.
Right. And are we supposed to, this is where I got to hang up. When those scientists go in there and make a baby, is that of God? And is that of God's image? It's just a scientific method, a way of doing it versus the miracle of 800 million to 1 that you're going to have a child?
Right.
I think that it's another way God gives you the ability to have a child. I think God gives you the ability to have intelligence enough. That's why we have scientists that have figured this out. So I don't disagree with the statement, but in a actual court ruling, that's where the problem is. And like, I don't even flaw them for making, like, they had to call the law the way it was. If you are being sued over this and they're calling out this specific statute that's been on the books forever, it's up to the legislators to now correct this. And their hands are tied. They had to do it. I think they just muddied the water and made this look a lot damn worse than it ever should have been.
That's where I'm at, man. Because I'm not religious, at all. And I'm not going to shit on anybody's religion. That's not cool. But they didn't have to go there.
Correct. Right.
They could have just rested on the laws on the books. Now it's up to the legislature. Right.
Correct. But there are many controversial things out there currently that they'll change the law snap fast when it comes to sexuality, when it comes to certain things. They'll change that law immediately. They could have said, let's look at this law, rewrite this law, this, that, and the other. And I don't even know if I want them to. I don't know that I...
Well, that's the problem with government is, see, look what they've done. They, in good intentions, right, of protecting innocent children, they are now making criminals out of people that are just trying to have children. And so this has always been my biggest fucking problem with government is this kind of shit. They don't think anything through. They all think they're smarter than they are. They throw a law on the books. It looks good on paper until some shit like this happens. And then when this happens,
we might be on opposite sides of the aisle, but we can both agree that government has no fucking business, in this stuff.
Right now,
this interview with this fertility doctor. It was on CNN today when I was driving to work, and she's just like, I've got to have conversations with my patients, and I don't know what to tell them. It's like even moving them out of state.
that defeat my whole premise goes back to it defeats the whole purpose. This is not an abortion clinic. This is not a stem cell research. This has nothing to do with that. This is people that are trying to have children. They're going to a clinic trying to have children because the traditional methods don't work.
Go ahead, Bradley.
Yeah, go ahead, Lee.
I mean, in that case, they insert these, whatever they are, whatever they're doing, they insert it into the woman. They insert 6 or 8, hoping that 2 will connect. Should she be charged for murder for the other 6 that she kills in the womb?
That's the questions, that are coming up right now. And in a lot of ways, man, this is like this conservative movement. This is the dog that caught the car.
Yeah.
No. Look. Trust me.
Or ways that, it's not only IVF treatments, which a member of my family was able to conceive with IVF.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And now we got like thousands of people in Alabama that are currently going through IVF treatments that can't do it anymore because every single clinic in the state has just completely stopped.
That's outrageous.
But if you look beyond it, like I have daughters,
Me too. Yeah, 2 of them. Yeah.
You got 2 daughters. I got 2 daughters. And I really worry about it. Like right now in Missouri, okay, there's a law that says you cannot finalize a divorce if you're pregnant. So if your husband is kicking the shit out of you every day, as long as you stay pregnant, you can't finalize a divorce. If he's raping you and beating the shit out of you, you can't do anything about it. And I think we can all agree that government has they can't jump in on this. Like, they can't tell us how to live our lives. They can't.
The problem is we've lost our middle ground and the sanity that comes with the middle ground. Because as much of a conservative as I am, I'm also probably a little more liberal in things than you probably would think I would be. You know what I mean?
I wouldn't be able to say that I was conservative. I would have to say that I'm a little of a lot. I mean, both sides. I mean,
me too.
There's certain things I could get, like this whole scenario. I mean, let it run like it runs. I could give a shit. I mean, if it's a scientific thing, okay. There's some embryos or whatever that don't make it. Okay, it's a scientific thing. Shit happens. That's and we're giving people opportunities to have a baby that can't have a fucking baby.
If we're going to go down this path, then people that have miscarriages could potentially get in trouble for having a miscarriage out of their control. I mean, this is, think about it like that. This is extreme, and that's what I don't like about the world we're headed to. Is both sides have hardened down on the both extreme sides they're at. You've got the extreme right that's taken over, and the extreme left that's taken over, and it's fucking bullshit. These people,
it's not good for anybody. I mean,
it's not good at all.
Restrictions. I mean, have you guys read about this shit that's happening? I mean, you got women that genuinely want their children.
That's right.
Okay? Genuinely want to have another baby. And, like, you've got these horrible birth defects that there's no way the child is going to survive. And if they bring it to term, it's probably going to result in the woman never being able to have a child again.
Right.
But they can't terminate the pregnancy, and then they give birth to the child, and the child struggles for 4 breaths and dies, and then the woman can't give birth. I mean, it's horrible.
Or the woman dies in the process. Yeah. I mean, no, I mean, well,
you have all these people, saying, well, there's alternative, there's adoption. I can attest, adoption is not easy.
Well, that's
you have to go through so much bullshit to adopt a child that it breaks you. I mean, a long time ago, Danny and I were going to adopt, and after about 14 months, and we still had things that we had to do, we were like, is this worth it?
Yeah,
and then the state lost all the paperwork and all the classes that we were in with all the people. So 14 people that were going through all these classes. And we got a letter that was like, oh, we just happened to misplace all the paperwork. And it was confidential paperwork. Like my, taxes, confidential paperwork.
Well, that's the problem. That's the problem with this argument. And I think, and to Lee's point, the right has really, really, really just made this a talking point and made this a political issue over the past 2 to 3 years, right? I mean, from the Supreme Court rulings and all that kind of stuff. There is no black and white answer here. And then you want to look at the aspect of, okay, adoption is the option. But to your point, I have friends that have adopted as well. That is a lengthy, drawn out, just grueling process. So you want to say right to life, let's protect children, but you won't even make it where someone can go literally adopt a child to truly, and from their heart, wanting to, maybe they don't have children, maybe they do, and they want to adopt a child, and they can't even do it easily. I get it. I mean, we don't want just,
meanwhile,
we don't want it just easy where anybody and everybody can do it. But I mean, good God, it's government. This is all government driven, because nothing they do.
Hands, man. Like a friend of mine in Texas worked at, a quote unquote abortion clinic. They weren't an abortion clinic. It's women's health care, right? But she always used to talk about how all these like super pro-life conservative women would come in and say that they didn't want to like wait with the sinners, right? Because if you've met these kinds of women who said they lost their baby, they didn't lose their baby, they had an abortion. All right?
Right.
End of it. They had an abortion, and they don't want to admit it, and they don't want to say that, right? But now, since the fall of Roe, here we are. Like, we're in a position where 70% of the country believes that, like, some sort of abortion access, should be legal. And what I thought was really interesting is, do you know what the highest growing group of people that believe that abortion should be legal is? Old Republican white dudes.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah, they fucked all their mistresses and bought them abortions.
or they have granddaughters. Because it's not like now, it's not like a life thing. It's, it's not like a Christian thing. It's a freedom thing.
And
I'm gonna kick back.
To make that decision for you.
Agreed. Yeah. The government, correct. You're right on that. And that's where I'm torn as someone who believes that, I think so. I've seen multiple spectrums with friends over the years, like women who've had babies that could have had an abortion, chose not to do it. I've had friends that had abortions, then had a family later in life. And I can tell you, in both scenarios, like the struggle was real on both sides. And, for the women that had the abortions, there was in some cases, guilt and regret. But they had a beautiful family, and they moved on, and it may always kind of be there. And then you have the women that had their children, and they were torn, though. In that moment, they were so damn torn, but they made their decision. The thing is, I agree with you in the aspect of, I think a lot of this is guilt driven. Most of this is because people have had abortions and maybe they are feeling guilty, and that's why they're trying to change these laws now. But at the same time, you made that decision. You had that freedom of choice. It was ultimately your decision. It's not your place to go tell the government, well, shut it down for everyone because I feel guilty because I did it. And I think that's what we see a lot of.
I think my bottom line is
hypocrisy.
You have a choice. You make the choice. And everybody don't have to live with the choice. You have to live with the choice. Good or bad. You don't have to go out, like you said, you don't have to go out and start advocating for the opposite of what you did because you feel bad. everybody should have a choice. You make that. Guess what? I get a choice to wake up every day and try to make money or not. And if I don't make money, I go broke.
Man, like, I read this article in The Guardian, and it almost brought me to tears. It really did. I'm not an emotional guy, right? But it was about this woman, okay? And she had 5 kids, all right? So the first 3 got taken by the state. Okay. Then she had one that was living with her, and then she got pregnant, and she wanted to get an abortion. But her state had a 15-week abortion ban. She couldn't get the abortion. All right, so she ended up having the kid, and the reason she wanted to get the abortion was because the doctors told her this kid is going to be extremely fucked up, right? She gave birth to the kid. Kid's extremely fucked up. All right. So then I guess she parked her car at a vape shop, went in to get a vape real quick, and a cop was like in the parking lot, and they took her 4th kid away for neglect, and they threw her in jail. And then her 5th kid, the one that's like super, super fucked up, all of the care that went into like making the child okay to go home cost $600,000. Right? I mean, this is like this, like, yeah, I mean, she's a line level, like gas station attendant, whatever. $600,000 is what Medicare spent, on getting this kid home. And then it's like, I'm reading the article, and it's like drug use, and then like the husband beat her, and then he gets locked up for like beating her and using meth, and it's the whole 9, right? So like everybody wants to say you've got to have this baby, but there are no support mechanisms to do.
Well,
and then it costs us $600,000 to get the baby fixed.
Yeah, well, and that
that's
right.
The thing for me, and it's always been this way, and I mean, this is a little controversial, but when it's all said and done, I believe the government has it's not their responsibility to support me in any fucking way, get involved in my family's business in any damn way. I mean, to be honest with you, I'd rather them give me my 15% back in Social Security and let me do my own fucking thing and not worry about me when I'm old. And you know what? If I die poor and starving to death, that's on me. Same thing with families intervening. Okay, is there situations where the government should get involved? You've got pure abuse, like abusing children, raping children,
yes,
all of that. Yes, but
there's been records of chicks that don't care about getting pregnant, and they're very promiscuous, and they get popped, go to the abortion, get popped, go to the abortion, get popped, go to the abortion.
Yeah,
there needs to be some.
Correct. I agree with that, and that's where I was going to go with that earlier. Is like those stories exist too, where I mean, they boast about it. I mean, I've literally seen interviews of women boasting about having 10, 15, 20 abortions, and they're proud of it. So that's why it's such a hard one to talk about, because there's no black and white here.
Agree. Because like, I don't care if somebody wants to like kill their offspring or their offspring, right? To me, these are undifferentiated cells that they're removing from a woman's body before it becomes a human being.
So are you anti late term abortion, or like, do you have a line that you draw in the sand? You're like, okay, this is where you feel like, what is your, because I think that's the question that becomes. The question is, and this has always been the defining argument on every single one of these court cases: when does life begin?
To me, like, and I know this sounds like super shitty, but it's viability. Yeah, it really is to me viability. It's like if that human can exist outside of its mother, then that's murder. You know,
Okay.
that is 100% murder.
And I can see that point. I get that. Yeah.
Yeah, but like the answer is like nobody knows, right?
Right.
Because you see,
and nobody's gonna know, and that's why my stance on it is. And this sounds horrible, and I don't mean it. I don't give a shit. If somebody wants, if somebody wants to have an abortion, have an abortion. Period. Maybe not. Maybe I could put some sort of measurement on an 8th or 9th month if I'm fucking educated at it. But I'm not educated. I don't know. So I ain't gonna waste my fucking time stressing over it because I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and the other thing is, to your point earlier, Chris, you're gonna pay for it. I mean, if you do something fucked up and you make the wrong decision, you're the only one that has the answer for that at the end of the day.
That's right.
I'm not going to answer for it. None of us are going to answer for it.
Yeah.
You want to go kill 20 children, but what I think what catches people, I think what gets people riled up, and I get it in a lot of ways too. And from the other perspective is, well, if you go kill a newborn, it's murder. So if you kill someone, if you kill a baby that is literally 8.5 weeks that would have survived, that's murder. Like that. I think that's the problem with this is no one can define when life starts because there's a lot of science that points to heartbeats at a certain point. Well, if you have a heart, does that mean that you're, an actual human? Like, you know what I mean? Like that's where it gets, it's such a tricky thing. But at the end of the day, if you look at it from an independent thought process, I mean, it's your decision. And if you make it, you have to deal with the consequences with that may not be anything legal or anything like that, but it may be something that you have to deal with the rest of your life in your head. You know what I mean? Like it may be something that fucks you up.
Question, right? And the ethical question is for everybody to decide. But the legal question is, does the government get to make that choice for you?
Well, clearly, if you look at this ruling, the government's not doing a very fucking good job at making these decisions.
Well, now you got all these guys like scrambling, as you can't, you can't say that life begins at conception with this blob of undifferentiated cells and then say, we support in vitro fertilization. You can't do both.
Right.
Correct.
Right? Or fucking Tommy Tuberville looked like a fucking douchebag, which he is, by the way.
I think.
Oh yeah, we need children. I guess I gotta look at that. We gotta run the ball.
I think that anything that has a controversial, some controversial matter, it is plugged and pelted with confusion so that every fucking thing will have 75 different fucking opinions, and then everybody will just sit around and do this on it. Whether it's abortion, whether it's economy, whether it's war, just whatever it is, man, we all out here sit around and fucking wait. What is it called? We wade in water, while they get to do whatever the fuck they want to do. I think that's the bottom line.
Because
that's a great point. Like that's a really great point, especially with the abortion issue, right? Because if you were going to write an honest, serious abortion law, it would have to read like a medical school textbook.
No shit.
It would. Yeah.
If and wins and
so many different things that are happening. And that's why like so many women are getting screwed so hard by this law. Like good, Christian, pro-life women that want their babies.
Right.
It's like that's why they're getting screwed because like lawmakers who don't know anything about it are passing laws about it.
Well, it goes to Chris's point. These waves that they ride off of, especially during the election seasons, are strictly emotional driven. They're all emotional driven. And what more emotional controversy than killing a baby?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's the most that's probably the most controversial subject you could ever get people riled up on an emotional level while you do whatever the fuck you do.
Man, and like, even on the political end, again, dog that caught the car.
Right. Yeah.
Right? I mean, Republicans and conservatives, they are going to pay for this. And they already have. You know? Red states are like passing initiatives. You know? Any state that has abortion on the ballot during the presidential election is flipping blue. You're gonna have 18.
No, I agree. I think
fucking balls.
there was so, and that's why I say I'm conservative. I'm conservative very much physically, which that shit has gone down the fucking drain. Pretty soon we're going to be spending more money on our debt payments than we are our military. So clearly I lost that fucking war.
Just on the interest.
Yeah.
You really think we're going to pay the debt payments?
But
do you really fucking think that they're going to pay those debt payments?
They have to.
No. What is it called? I don't even know what it's called. They shut that whole shit down.
I'm telling you, I will. But guess what? In the process, it's devaluing our money. It's wrecking our economy, and it's destroying America. So, all right, if they do, it's still a fucking problem. But they get away with literally adding, like $4 trillion in fucking debt over the course of a year or less. And then we sit here and argue about our rights. Well, guess what? When your country is fucking bankrupt and your economy has gone to shit, your rights don't even fucking matter anyway.
That's right.
We're fighting over the wrong damn things, and that's what gets me so riled up. Is like, listen, what happened to us debating over the fact? I mean, the last time we had any true debates over like worrying about the actual economy of this country and the debt in this country was back in the Bill Clinton and maybe some early Bush years. And then that shit has disappeared and never returned. But yeah, we're over here talking about emotionally driven shit while the government spends as much fucking money as they want and raises the debt ceiling as high as they want it to go. And this is Rome 2.0. They're fucking literally doing whatever the hell they want and keeping people distracted and entertained with TikTok and all this bullshit while they literally waste away this country. So it doesn't really matter what rights you have when you don't even have a fucking economy.
Yeah, the interest payments on our debt. You know?
Allegedly, there's been 4 times that the U.S. has, quote unquote, defaulted on the debt. Civil War, 33 with gold bonds, 68, and something that's everyone. And I'm not versed on this. I'm just saying that this will be something that I research. But I knew that I heard that in the back of my head that they just said, fuck it. And they printed, after the Civil War, they just started fucking printing.
Yeah, can I show y'all a little chart real quick?
Do chart.
This is fucking scary. If you look at this is average monthly interest rates. The problem is this. There is no check and balances anymore. It is what it is. The problem is no one is taking, and I've said this before, we fight over social issues. We fight over gender. We fight over, race.
Now listen, I'm a firm believer that if there wasn't a government, there wouldn't be minimal race issues.
100%. I mean, they would need that. They need that for votes. I mean, they need one side to actually vote for them. The thing is this, and I think we'll probably wrap this up shortly. I know we didn't get to half the stuff we want to talk about. This is a great conversation, though.
Been good, yeah.
But I truly believe this. We've sat here for the past, especially I'd say 10 years, maybe even a little bit longer than that, but especially over the past years, 10 years, fighting over, gender, race, sexuality, abortion, all of these rights that were afforded under the Constitution of the U.S., right? But yet, if we don't get our house in order, what does it matter anyway? I mean, like if we can't pay our bills, if our economy collapses, no one's going to give a fuck if you got purple hair or you cut your dick off. No one's going to give a shit. Like that doesn't matter anymore. Those are freedoms afforded when you have a country that is actually operating, and we're heading down the path of Rome, where they just were corrupt and blew everybody's money and just got drunk and made all these decisions. And meanwhile, Rome was getting invaded by the barbarians, and Rome was partying.
Yeah, I honestly think that people don't give as much of a shit as they portray in the news about these things that are rights afforded to citizens. I think it's all, I don't want to say false flags because I don't want to be conspiracious, but it's all smoke and mirrors, man. Correct. It's all smoking.
I hear you.
Bring it on, movie. What's that?
Yep.
Okay. I always poured my beer.
Me too.
Yeah, trying to get it as small ahead as I can get.
Me too. I love it.
The more you know.
Hey, look, y'all. This has been a good one, and I love the conversations we get into sometimes that we don't ever plan to spend so much time on. But I really enjoyed this. Great conversations, and way to end that shit, Lee. That's the way to end that shit, because everyone can agree on drinking alcohol. So that's the way you pour your fucking beer.
There's nothing wrong with that, I guess.
All right. Well, until next week, I'll see y'all.
Peace.